Well, first things first, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Uh, Fuck Copa and YouTube for screwing over creators and all that stupid shit now where it could potentially cost creators 42 grand per video if it's not labeled as child friendly or directed towards children, whatever the fuck that means. I apologize in advance for the excessive swearing and if it offends anybody, but you being offended is not worth me having to pay 42 grand per video because some asshole in a data center thinks that these videos about Blender are geared towards kids. So, yeah, fuck that shit. Anyway, moving on from that, welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Cross, and today I'm going to be talking about Blender's video sequence editor, which is like there's a small, not like too small, but there's a community of people that do use this as opposed to like Premiere or Kdenlive or something like that. It's definitely not as popular because it's not primarily meant to be a video editor, but it is a feature that Blender offers. So what I'm going to do is specifically talk about when you're using this, problems that you may run into and how to solve those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the camera and then we'll jump into it. Okay, let's say hypothetically, this is a scene, by the way, from my upcoming video series called The Life of Orin. So if you want to hear more about that or be tuned in for that, make sure you subscribe. That way you get updates. Anyway, as for what I'm talking about, let's say that you have an animation and you just rendered it out to all your images. So these are all my images. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that when you're initially doing your rendering, you want to do it in PNG format. You don't want to render directly to a video because if the video fails or if the rendering gets corrupted or anything, that's the whole thing gone, which is extremely aggravating and you have to start from scratch. If it messes up somewhere down here, like frame 28, 21 or whatever, you can just start from there. But anyway, so you have your whole animation and now you want to go in to the video editor and you're like, okay, let's complete the animation. First of all, what you want to do is you got to drag all those photos into here. And don't worry about these sound clips. This is just like music that I was putting to my animation test, which is also on the channel if you wanted to check that out. So first things first, if you don't know how to add an image sequence, you go right here to add image sequence and then just hit A to select all of them. Make sure there's nothing random in there. Yeah, okay. And add image strip. Now if I were to play this, first it's got to, calibrate. It'll be real slow until it runs all the way through it. And this song will play for a minute, but I also had this rendered at an extremely low sample rate. That way I could just get it done quickly and see how it tests out. And then after this completes, you'll actually see, it might be taking longer because of me also recording. But so this is what it actually looks like and the normal speed that it goes. Alright, so point is you got that in there now and you're like, okay, let me turn this from a image sequence into the actual video, right? So over here you go from PNG to MPEG, right? FFmpeg. I like H.264. You can use whatever you want, but that's the one that I use. And then I also use AAC coding instead of MP3. MP3 will kind of mess up the audio sometimes, so I like AAC. And then you're like, okay, cool, right? So then you come over and you hit render animation. And before I do this, it may lag the video. I apologize ahead of time. But yeah, so you do that, and then you notice that it's rendering from scratch. Essentially, you're seeing all the samples, and you're like, and I'm going to cancel this before it completes. But you're seeing it render the samples again, and you're like, wait a minute, I literally just sat through an hour of just these, what is that, like 100 plus frames? Yeah, around 100 frames, and depending on how good your computer is, you could spend an hour just waiting for that to get done, and you're like, why is it re-rendering it all from scratch? Well, the reason is because I'm going to go back to this one just because I already have it pulled up. But here in the actual context output, where you change the video from like PNG to video and everything like that, if you scroll down, there's actually this little button right here called the sequencer, right? And once you have your images in here, in order to just quickly render it, you have to make sure this box is checked. Because what that does is, now that you check that, it uses the images that are already in here. So you don't have to render it twice. And I wish it like explained this when you're going through and everything like that. But if nobody ever told you about this, like if you weren't watching this video, you would just have to sit through the entirety of it re-rendering. And it would probably take longer because it's actually got the music in there as well. But yeah, so you click on that checkbox, make sure the sequencer is, selected. And then when you render it, you'll see up in the top left corner, and you'll see the actual video now too. It's completely rendering out everything. It's not having to do sample by sample for each frame. The frames are already in the sequencer, and so now it's just running through them. And I'm gonna cancel that again just because I've already done it, and the video's on my channel. But yeah, it's something so minor, and it's literally, this is closed by default, right? So if you're new to Blender and you're just testing out animation and you had no idea what post-processing is, this is closed. So unless you knew to come down here and click this, you would never know that you need to check that. So I mean, that's just a quick tip to save render times. And I've been using Blender for about 3 years now. I just discovered this. Even in the old one, and you may say, okay, well that's my fault for not doing enough research or not knowing the software well enough. But that's like, people need videos like this to actually see the functionality of a software. And so, if I hadn't stumbled upon this one day, I would have never known what that was, and I'd be re-rendering all my animations, and it would take years because my computer is not the best. But anyway, guys, I hope that saves somebody out there some frustration, because I know that when I was having to re-render everything, that was definitely, I would get home from work and I would set my computer to start rendering, and it would get done at like midnight when it was time for me to go to bed. And then those for like test animations too. And then I would be like, okay, and I'd go back through, and then when I wanted to turn it into a video, same thing. I'd have to wait like 6-7 hours again. And then when I discovered just checking the little box for the sequencer, which you can no longer see because my face is in the way, that saved me a bunch of time. So yeah, guys, I hope that helped. If you enjoyed the video, if it did help you, go ahead, drop a like, help other people to find the video, and help the channel. I appreciate it. If you want to hit the sub button, so I can provide you more tips, and that way you can, get notified when I drop a new video, and blah, 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 blah. Now I'm just rambling. Anyway, guys, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I will catch you all in the next one.